I suppose, Brian, we'll start, and no better place to start than last year's champion hurdle, which is the opening race we're going to preview. Of the five championship races. I mean, I think that set the tone really for Rachel Blackmore, set the tone for her week. Um, and Honeysuckle still tops the market. I mean, there probably is going to be no stopping her, Brian.
Yeah, I can't see anything else here other than a very similar result to last year. I mean, the way she won, the way she kicked on from the top of the hill. A lot of people were answering the questions, when she answered plenty of questions, but they were asking, different feel than what she would have faced in, say, the Dublin Racing Festival and then previous Irish champion hurdles, a lot more class. She would have had. She came up against the previous year's champion in Ante-Post. They were answering, would she have the speed? She fairly put it to bed in a matter of about 4 strides. Just kind of kicked on before the home turn and was away, and it was tremendous. It was really a brilliant performance, and to see any other result is I can't see it anyway. I really can't. I think the only horse who ran her to any sort of distance in the last while has been Sharjah in this race last year, and that was 6.5 lengths. I know she won a Hatton's Grace by only half a length to Ronald Pump about 2 years ago, but really didn't jump well that day and kind of really put that race behind her when she went to the Dublin Racing Festival and then kicked on to win the Mares, and now she's back again. So I don't know. Honeysuckle is just different class in this field. She was lovely again at Fairyhouse in November. She's going to go to Dublin at the weekend. And if she wins there again, which I imagine she will, and I imagine she'll win comfortably, she could go on and really dominate this again, because looking at the field that could be going up against her, I don't know how anyone's going to get by her, to be honest.
Dan, and for anyone listening on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, get your comments in, and we'll read the best ones out. Dan, with Rachel and Honeysuckle, is it that true that they are the best pairing in the sport at the moment? That there's no two that come close, and not just that, but how important are they as well for the sport? How iconic could Honeysuckle and Rachel be when it's all said and done?
Yeah, they're definitely a great poster image for the sport and a great partnership for the sport. And Honeysuckle, there's no better sight last year than both Honeysuckle kicking off the bend in Leopardstown and then doing exactly the same in Cheltenham. And like Brian touched on here, I guess the thing with this race, that Honeysuckle's beaten 90% of these horses already, and convincingly. With the £7 mares allowance as well, you just can't see a different result other than anything happened to Honeysuckle before the race. So with that in mind, I suppose you're looking at the outsiders, and you don't want to be like saying tipping up an outsider for the sake of it, to be honest with you. So you're kind of looking at the race, and it all comes back to Honeysuckle. So to answer your question, they're a great partnership for the sport. I know Rachel Blackmore hasn't quite had the form she had last year, but I think I'm expecting a big Cheltenham from her and Henry's horses to be firing. So it will be interesting, the Irish champion hurdle. Look, one horse I did want to mention here, and it's a very unlikely scenario, but I suppose it's still possible, is Appreciated. So I made the mistake of watching the Supreme Novice Hurdle back this morning, and it reminded of how convincingly Appreciated won it, to beating a good horse in Blue Lord, who's gone on, and he's on over fences as well. He hasn't run all season due to a slight setback, and that has meant that he was going to go chasing, but he's sticking over hurdles. Now, there's no word yet if he definitely will run at Leopardstown, but he is entered in the Irish champion hurdle. So if he was to be declared, that could be a fascinating battle next weekend, given that Appreciated is probably the only horse at the moment that is running over hurdles that could beat Honeysuckle. So, and if he was to get him, I'd probably fancy him at Leopardstown maybe as opposed to Cheltenham, but if he does get a run in and finish maybe a close second behind Honeysuckle, he could be a sneaky one that could potentially upset it. But at the same time, he's kind of priced accordingly in the fact that he is 7-8 to 1 out there as opposed to a double figure price. So it's still not even that convincing. So I would do the no runner, no bet, which some bookmakers are doing. But so I think out of all the options, because Honeysuckle's beaten all these horses convincingly at both Leopardstown, Cheltenham, everywhere else, at over 2 miles, it's hard to see past her. But I would say that Appreciated is probably the only one there. And if he is declared, as I said, in the Irish champion hurdle this weekend, that'll be some race at Leopardstown. And it'd be like Willie Mullins has gotten these horses ready without prep runs before. So I have no doubt that he'll be ready. He won't be declared at Leopardstown if he's not ready. And then he'll have a month to kick on at the champion hurdle. So I wouldn't completely rule out Appreciated. But Honeysuckle seems very solid. It's mad. I listened back to our Cheltenham videos last year the other week. and we were tipping up our day one naps. We're both Honeysuckle at 5-2. Can you believe she was 5-2 to beat that field? That she ultimately went, I think, 6-4 off or 5-4 off. So it's hard to believe a year on. Goshen's nowhere to be seen, really, just finishing second, third in all these races. Yeah, I was very close to backing Goshen in that champion hurdle. It just shows you how far a year is, or how long a year is in horse racing. But Honeysuckle will be very happy to be here.
Yeah, Brian, just on that, just finally on Honeysuckle. I mean, she's gone for a hat trick of Irish champion hurdles at the weekend. But is there a little bit of, I'd imagine with Rachel and with all the great jockeys, because it's so competitive at the top to be champion jockey this year, you've got the big three Irish in Jack Kennedy, Paul Town, and then Rachel Blackmore. Will there be a little bit of anxiety in when you have a horse like Honeysuckle, when she's one of the bankers of the week? Would there be a little bit of apprehension with Rachel and making sure that Honeysuckle gets over the line and early on day one getting a tick on the board?
Yeah, I think so. I think she's more worried she'd be more worried, especially at that stage of especially looking towards Cheltenham about. I'm sure the champion hurdle is more important in her mind than retaining her Jockey's Championship. I think that was more or less bonus territory for her last year, because she did, although she gave these horses brilliant rides, she got blessed with the likes of Quilixios only arriving to the stable about 3 weeks before the festival. She had no idea she was going to be riding him. Willie rang her to ride Allaho. She was only really kind of booked in for that nearly towards the last week of it. So whether that those sort of scenarios will happen again for her this year, I don't know. So it's a hard one to kind of figure out whether she actually will retain that title. I don't think she will. She might, and I think that Willie's team are very strong again, and it could end up being Paul Townend's one again. But at the same time, I think that she'd be more concerned about getting this over the line, as you said, get her take on day one, and then see how her week goes from there. But she, a lot of them would say riding a horse at 4-6 is nearly more pressurizing than riding a horse at 25-1, because there'll be a lot more people relying on it. So I think that she's going to be more concerned about trying to get this horse back up than anything else, really, especially at that early stage.